Sometimes starting is the hardest part, but I want to encourage everyone listening that it's like planting a tree, right? The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today, right? So very similar here. The next best time to start building your opt-in text messaging list is today.
What goes wrong when marketing, sales, fulfillment, support all use different channels? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Coffee Break podcast. We all use text messaging every day. It's fast, personal, and gets our attention. But when it comes to business, many companies still treat messaging as just another marketing channel. Marketing sends one message, sales another conversation, and customer support works on a complete different system. What if all these conversations could work together? To answer these questions, I'm joined by McGuckin Hager. Amanda is the CMO and CEO of TrueDialog, where she leads brand and marketing strategy. With more than 25 years of experience across brand, digital, and performance marketing, she brings a wealth of experience to the conversation. Amanda, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Klaus. It's great to be here.
Let's jump right in. Why is text messaging so important for businesses?
I think today it's really important for businesses. Today we struggle with getting the attention of our audiences. We have attention sort of deficit across all these different mediums. Phone calls in my world go unanswered. The email box is stiff with competition. And the spam filters are getting a little tighter. So getting into the inbox in and of itself can be challenging. Text messaging, in my mind, is right there in the palm of your audience. It's on the device that they check multiple times a day, up to hundreds of times a day, depending on the audience. Not to mention that the current generations skew mobile. Mm-hmm. They're skewing more mobile than desktop and even laptop. So I think it's really important.
And you're totally right. I think text messaging has like a 99% opening rate. So people really read this. While email, you might end, as I said, in a spam filter or in the promo folder and so on. Now, we talked about that businesses are using different channels, and that's probably a problem. So what goes wrong when marketing, sales, fulfillment, support all use different channels?
Generally speaking, operationally, inside the organization, it can be a challenge because if there are different disparate tech stacks, for example, support might be fielding a really critical support ticket where sales isn't seeing that support ticket and may not know, or customer success may not know that it's time to reach out and smooth the waters with that relationship, or may create a faux pas in reaching out with an ill-timed upgrade or a new promotion. So that's a pretty generic use case, but we've all received those poorly timed marketing messages. So I think that is the biggest risk with having disparate systems and not having activity records across all the different departments field on one customer record.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how text messaging can really start a conversation with the client, with the customer, over all departments. How does that look in a perfect world scenario?
To start the text messaging conversation, we really have to go back to compliance and the opt-in. One of the reasons that the text messaging channel is so effective is that it does have a high bar in creating that first-party data, that first-party list. Mm-hmm. So, getting the conversation started does rely on the opt-in. Once the list is created, generating that relationship via text message is slow to start. You want to make sure that it's timed properly, that the triggers of your messages are appropriate and targeted and personalized as much as possible. But then also using something that integrates across your tech system for that exact example that we talked about when there's a support issue, a package hasn't been delivered or something is shipped, and then new promotions are coming out on top of that, where as a package is still lost in the universe waiting to be delivered. So there are opportunities there with different products to integrate across the different systems used. Our solution, TrueDialog, we have something called TrueConnect. It's a no-code connector between the different CRM systems and support systems used in the tech stack. So that keeps all the activity records via text message on the same cell phone number record across the different systems. So our customers find incredible value in that because just as we talked about, support is dealing with one, sales is dealing with another, and then marketing is dealing with a marketing automation platform on the other side. And so this way it's all a cohesive conversation.
Mhm. Now, let's talk about something that's called RCS, which you will explain to us what exactly that is. Our listeners might have heard of it, but just give me a bit of an overview what it actually means.
Yeah, RCS stands for Rich Communication Services, and in Europe and around the world, it's been around for a long time. I think over a decade. However, the United States is just starting to blossom with RCS. That happened in 2024, where the majority of devices in the United States are Apple devices, and then in 2024. Apple decided to support RCS. And so it's been sort of a slow roll working with the telecom carriers to get the adoption, working with the ecosystem of players in the United States to get that going. But we're starting to see some real momentum and starting to see some real traction around RCS. So a normal text message, I like to think of it as a text email, right? The emails that we send each other, one-to-one text or one-to-one emails or text message, basically. And then in the email inbox, you also have the HTML emails that are branded, they're colored, they have modules and blocks. Sometimes they embed video or polls. And RCS is very similar to that in the text message tray, the native messaging tray. So imagine a brand being able to send embedded videos, being able to send rich communications in 10 different cards, being able to swipe left and right, being able to have links that go to a calendar, links that go to a map for your storefront, links that go to a phone call to support. It's quite intelligent and quite interactive, almost like an interactive app might be. But again, with an app, you have downloads and you have updates, and apps get downloaded, they get deleted, and then your push notifications go with that deleted app. The RCS bypasses all of that. RCS allows you to send those messages directly to that native tray. It's super cool. It is really cool to see in action.
I think it combines the best of everything. Deliverability,
Yes.
99%, which you don't have any other channel. And
Yes.
also now you have all these formats, these multimedia formats that you in the past couldn't have with text messaging. Now,
Yes.
our listeners are in e-commerce. Give me a perfect world scenario on how they can use this.
So you brought up something really important with RCS that I'd like to touch on briefly, which is the verified sender. So RCS is unique in that it is not sent through a phone number. That was really hard for me to wrap my head around. What do you mean a text message that is not sent through a phone number? Like all text messages are sent that way, be it a long code, the 10-digit long code, or a short code, the 5-6 codes. RCS is sent through a verified registered agent. So what that means is brands can send those messages with their logo as the contact card and their brand name instead of the phone number. So that alone is incredibly important for brands to realize that, we talk in marketing, we talk about sometimes it takes up to 17 touch points with a brand to kind of get that brand identification, that brand relationship going. And just having that branded contact card and branded name is such a great touch point on one message. Imagine that coming on repeated messages after that. And then for the brand itself, let's take a direct-to-consumer brand. You've got products to sell. Imagine having cards for all your new drops, right? You can have up to 10 cards. You've gotten a collab with some big name influencer, and now you can actually feature 10 of those products in cards that you swipe left to right. Or imagine that you have a user group. Let's take like a running shoe store that might have a running club, that might have local running clubs around the United States. Now you can send, join the running club, find your closest location, and link to the map app to find the one that's closest to that consumer. So it really expands and explodes the opportunity for brands, far more than email, far more than just plain text messages, and definitely more than social media alone. So
Earlier, you mentioned that there is certain legal things you need to fulfill to work with text messaging. I want to dive a little bit into for smaller brands that might sound scary. And also there's some best practices on what not to do. Can you give me an overview?
Yes, there are. So registration for to be able to send text message requires, I think, again, in 2024, the industry bodies agreed that in the United States, no traffic will be sent on any telecom, carrier network without being registered. So it's a requirement for everyone sending text messages, and it's really not that hard. It just requires some paperwork, your EIN number, some types of message samples to be sent. But many text messaging companies say, go get your 10 DLC and come back to us when you're registered and we'll get you started sending text messages. That's not the way that TrueDialog operates. We have been in this business for over 25 years. Our customer success team is staffed with experts that have 25 years of telecom experience. And we've done this thousands of times. We're experts at it at this point and happy to partner with our clients to make sure that they have what they need to get up and running quickly. So I would say the best practice would be to know that there might be changes to your privacy policy that are required. There might be changes to your terms and conditions that are required in order to do the text messaging registration and get that going.
I think it's also for the customer. The customer knows when a message comes from you as a brand, it's not spam, because that's usually the biggest turn off, to give my phone number or to give my details to any kind of brand. Now, yes. I want to talk a little bit about the technical implementation. You said it's really straightforward. What kind of APIs or connectors do you have to other systems?
Yeah. So TrueDialog has an API, as you mentioned. We can use that to code up and connect to any system. But we also have native integrations with Salesforce and HubSpot and Dynamics, Eloqua, Marketo, some of the marketing automation platforms. And we have a mobile app for people on the go, on their feet and in the field. So yeah.
Okay. Tell me about who's a perfect customer. What kind of brands do you work with?
We work with a lot of different brands for a lot of different use cases. So we have a number of brands that are direct to consumer, sort of e-commerce. We have some really unique use cases. We have some customers that work with the Amish communities that are not permitted to be on social media. They're not permitted to use smartphones. So they use our system to sell products via MMS or multimedia systems. And are doing very, very well, actually. We have other retail brands and direct-to-consumer brands that have large field teams that work across the United States, have people in different locations, people in different offices, and they use our solution to communicate with their staff, with their workforce, both in enablement, and in communications, safety regulations, things like that. So it runs the gamut. It really depends on every business and their model, but we do support many different use cases there.
Walk me through a typical onboarding process for a new user. What kind of steps are involved and how long does it take to get up and running?
That's a great question. So onboarding for us can be very fast. We can get customers up and running in days. A lot of it depends on their ability to get those privacy policy and terms and conditions updated, their ability to grab their EIN number and sometimes the paperwork that's associated with that EIN number, as well as the ability to craft example messages and the opt-out messaging. If all of that is sort of packaged and ready to go, we can get it going in days. Generally, that's the 10 DLC registration. The short code has a much higher threshold because it is a higher throughput and at mass volume. Not necessarily because of us, but because of the system that has to be approved by every single telecom carrier. And sometimes that can take time. That can take up to 5 to 6 weeks sometimes. And the same with the RCS. agent registration, that does also have to be approved by individual carrier, each individual carrier, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, et cetera. So sometimes that can take up to, we've seen it 5 to 8 weeks to get those RCS agents registered. But that is the registration process. From a tool stack perspective, we generally do an onboarding for the sysadmins to understand the admin functionality on the backside. And then we do a training for the teams actually sending the text messaging. And we can do those in the same day if needed. So we can move as fast as customers want to move, depending on how fast they can have those materials ready, and get it going.
Okay. Is there any kind of other homework or thinking that a merchant needs to do before they can get started beside of the paperwork? What should they prepare, or what kind of strategy should they have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think let's talk about opt-ins, like developing that opt-in list and developing that first party data. So that's a really valuable list, right? You've got people who are giving you their phone numbers. And here in the United States, phone numbers don't change that often. I think I've had my phone number almost 20 years, right? So that is an intimate part of my identity at this point. So consumers sharing that intimate data with a brand is really, really something of value, right? That first party data is really critical. So being able to grow and develop that list is going to be something to be thinking about, right? Sometimes it's as easy as building it into a form, building it into an order process, an order completion. And sometimes it can be really creative. Like if you have a storefront, putting a QR code on the door or putting a QR code near the point of sale, or even putting QR codes in the dressing rooms. We work with brands that have events, big sporting events. We work with a lot of professional sports teams, and sometimes it's putting a QR code up on the Megatron, the big screen inside the stadium. It really just depends on your business model, but that is, I would say, if there's homework, I would be thinking about that. Like, how can we grow our list? How can we develop our list? How can we craft a mutual relationship where we're offering something of value in exchange for that phone number, and that we honor that relationship in making sure that we're sending timely, targeted messages to enhance that relationship, not necessarily burn it out.
I think it's a very important word that you mentioned there is creating value. Merchants are always sort of scared to asking for the phone number. I mean, they say no one will give this. But if you give your customer a good reason that there is value in it, then they're more likely than not to give you the phone number. And I have seen it myself many, many times that these lists can grow very, very quickly. But you just need to communicate very clearly with your customer why this would help them if you have the number. And then it goes very, very, very easy.
Yeah, in e-commerce, I have seen a lot of promotional offers, right? Get a % off, which is a very strong offer. I think from my personal experience, what I've seen is that's a great offer to get started, but people often opt out after that. And so how do you craft that relationship in a way that is not overwhelming to the consumer, right? Too often, I think they call it the frequency of communication, right? And making sure that the frequency is not too overwhelming, making sure that it's not spaced apart too far, where someone is like, I don't even remember this brand. It's been 6 months. Why am I getting this? And so there is a balance there, but it can be done very successfully. There are a large number of brands that are doing it successfully today. So
yeah, really golden nugget for our listeners. Find the kind of interval that you want to communicate with your customers to find the sweet spot that they don't forget about you and that they don't annoy it. Now, with your system, TrueDialog, obviously there's a pricing attached to it. How does your pricing structure work?
we generally price by message. We have different packages, different tiered packages based on volume. So small businesses have a low end. They can send, I think it's up to 5,000 messages a month. Easy peasy. The next step up involves integrations. If you want an integration, we ask for the Business Pro to start. And then we go up from there. We have an enterprise and a custom plan from there. So for high volume. But yeah.
Okay, very transparent, very straightforward. Amanda, before our coffee break comes to an end today, is there anything you want to share with our listeners that we haven't covered yet?
I would say if you're not texting yet, now is the time to start looking into it. You want to get that compliance information up on your website, get your opt-in going on your website forms, maybe even before you choose a vendor, just to go ahead and get your list, your opt-in list started, right? I think sometimes starting is the hardest part, but I want to encourage everyone listening that it's not that hard. And the sooner you get started, it's like planting a tree, right? The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today, right? So very similar here. The next best time to start building your opt-in text messaging list is today. So that would be my parting words. Just let's get started.
I couldn't agree more. Texting is so important. I have used this for years in my own business, and it was one of the main revenue drivers. So that just shows you in e-commerce, texting is a massive channel. Where can people go and find out more about you?
TrueDialog.com. It's TrueDialog. Dialog.
Okay, I will put the link in the show notes, then you're just one click away. Amanda, thanks so much for your time today. I think that's a really good overview for somebody who is trying to scale their business and looking for new ways. Texting is definitely one way to go. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Klaus.